Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Josh Strife Hayes, and as usual, I'm going to make a controversial statement based on my own opinion, and then try to justify it with reasons, both academic and emotional. I'll point out the flaws in something, then offer suggestions on how to fix it, then you're going to shout at me in the comments and explain why I'm wrong. We all know the drill, so let's do this. Battle Royale shooters suck. They are not good games at their core. The central design elements of these games are flawed, and this leads to them all, without exception, being terrible. The most famous of these games are Fortnite, Apex Legends, PUBG, which stands for PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, and Escape from Tarkov. But there are many more games and genres which have been infested with the Battle Royale curse, including, for some reason, Tetris. This video will focus on the shooter variety of Battle Royale games, as they're the most popular, and will analyse and explain exactly what it is I hate about them. I'll also throw in some examples of games I absolutely love, to reassure you all I don't just hate shooters, only this specific game mode. As with all my videos, I'm going to define a few terms so we're all on exactly the same page. This may seem patronising to those of you already knowledgeable about games, but I want to make sure everyone watching understands exactly what we're talking about. Let's define some terms. First-person shooter. Any game where your vision as a player is a representation of what the in-game avatar would be able to see. In effect, you see through their eyes. The weapon you have equipped will be shown at the bottom of the screen as if held up in your character's arms. This camera style is not bad, and is used in such legendary FPS games as Doom, GoldenEye, Time Splitters, Nightfire, Doom Again, Turok, Unreal Tournament, Medal of Honor, and Call of Duty. Then non-shooter games like Outlast, AMNESIA, Mirror's Edge, and Portal. Third-person shooter. A game where the camera will follow the in-game avatar from a distance, usually allowing you to see the character's whole body and freely manipulate the camera around them. This camera manipulation is usually locked to a minimum and maximum height and distance value, meaning you can't zoom out really far or look at them from directly above or below. Used in such brilliant third-person shooters as Max Payne, Gears of War, Spec Ops: The Line, Dead Space, Fade to Black, and MDK, along with non-shooter games like Grand Theft Auto, Uncharted, Tomb Raider, Devil May Cry, and World of Warcraft. I've included the examples of good games using those camera systems to show you that I do not hate the camera styles themselves, and when done well, they can enhance a game. The final term we need to define is Battle Royale. This will be more complex, as it usually has several component parts that all interlock, so let's break it down to basics. Battle Royale is a game mode, not a mechanic. A mode is a way the game will operate with several smaller mechanics all adding up together. Change one of those mechanics, and you have a similar but different mode. I'll explain this more later. A Battle Royale game mode usually refers to any game where a large amount of players each choose to play as a specific avatar with specific abilities, are placed into one shared arena, and must then fight against each other. When you are defeated, you are removed from the game. The most popular examples of these games in modern culture are the Battle Royale shooters such as Fortnite, Apex Legends, and PUBG, but the game mode of Battle Royale existed long before those games rose to popularity. Older examples of Battle Royale games are Destruction Derby and Twisted Metal, both third-person driving games focused on being the last car left alive in a dangerous arena. Party games like Crash Bash or Mario Party, which are many small Battle Royale mini-games linked together through a central game. Or Chivalry Medieval Warfare, a brutal medieval first-person melee game. It could be possible to argue that games like Halo, Uncharted, and Command & Conquer all boasted Battle Royale-style modes which were great fun. So the game mode has existed much longer than the hyper-famous ones we know today. So why do I hate them so much? And why do I think these specific ones, the super popular ones, are bad? Am I just hating on something because it's popular? Honestly, no. These games have some brilliant elements that are worth praising. The character design of Fortnite is striking and memorable. Weapon variation within Escape from Tarkov keeps games interesting. The movement and climbing of Apex Legends is fast and fluid. And the infrastructure needed across all games to actually get hundreds of players engaged and playing together in real time is immensely impressive. So please understand, I do appreciate the great elements these specific games have to offer. That doesn't stop them from sucking though, and here's why. Poor gameplay loops and excessive downtime. All video games are made up of what we call gameplay loops. What do you actually do in the game and for how long? These are the various mechanics that build together to create the specific game mode you are playing. The simple example is Pong. The gameplay loop is to move a paddle to hit a ball. Space Invaders is moving a ship to shoot enemies while avoiding fire. These examples are super simple. But as you move into more complex games, the complexity of each gameplay loop doesn't change, you just gain more loops. The Witcher 3 is a huge game, but each loop is relatively simple. Talk to a person and then go to a place is the majority of the questing. Combat is hit the enemy and avoid being hit. Upgrading is find items to make new items. A complex game indeed, but with many simple gameplay loops. A game will repeat its gameplay loop many times over its whole runtime, so it has to be an enjoyable experience. And you as a player have to control the outcome of it. That's what makes a game and not just a movie. You are manipulating the loop to continue because it's enjoyable. These gameplay loops are where the majority of your fun comes from. If your core loop isn't fun, the game won't be fun. AMNESIA has the core loop of solve physics puzzle while avoiding enemies. If you fail this loop, the game will end. GoldenEye has move through the level and kill the enemies. Fail this loop and the level ends. World of Warcraft has repeat this action, such as kill a certain number of enemies or collect a certain number of items for your level to increase. You can stop performing the loop, but the game will stop advancing. The gameplay loop is the absolute core of your game. A game without a core gameplay loop would feel disjointed and directionless. I remember playing one of the original Action Man games on the PlayStation 1. The first 3 levels were a mix of top-down driving game, side-scrolling beat-em-up, and on-rails shooter. Not a bad experience, but the lack of a core loop left it feeling hollow. With that in mind, let's examine the details of the core gameplay loops of common Battle Royale games. Before the game starts, you'll usually be able to pick a specific character and customize how they look, sometimes to a lesser extent, how they play. The fashion within these games is purely cosmetic, so has absolutely no effect on gameplay at all. However, it's often a major sink of development time. You can choose which colour your gun is, which visual appearance you want to have, what your victory dance will be if you defeat an enemy. And while this entire system seems deep, it's completely superficial. How you look will not affect gameplay at all. It's a cosmetic vanity choice. So the first choice we make in this gameplay loop is purely cosmetic. Before the game begins, you're then tasked with picking a character or a loadout, a selection of abilities or skills you'll take into battle which will define your playstyle and the specific choices you'll need to make to achieve victory. This choice usually gets games referred to as hero shooters, as you're controlling a heroic character, not simply a blank avatar. The second choice is therefore a tactical character choice. Then the game will begin. The popular Battle Royale games of the late 2010s and early 2020s, Fortnite, Apex Legends and PUBG, have players entering the actual in-game arena from the sky. jumping and paragliding down onto the battle zone. This is a tactical choice. Your positioning on the battlefield will either help or hinder you. Land somewhere popular and you'll have other players to deal with. Land somewhere deserted and you'll be alone, but also far from any tactical position. This part of the game is actually skill-based. Knowledge of the map and of the common tactics others use will help you here. So our third choice is also tactical. Then, when you've landed on the battlefield, you'd expect the core gameplay loop to begin, the shooting, except we have another obstacle to cross: finding a weapon. You see, games like Fortnite and Apex Legends have you enter the battlefield essentially unarmed, and you'll have to search for weapons and armour hidden throughout the game world, with guns and ammo being stored in certain locations. Unfortunately, each item is not equal, with some guns being immensely powerful and some armour providing more protection, or support items like healing packs giving a large advantage. There's no way of knowing what item will be in what location when you start, so you have to simply hope. This means our fourth choice is purely luck. That feels like it somewhat invalidates the previous two tactical choices, but let's carry on and examine that more later. So now we've played dress up, chosen a hero, landed in the arena, and found whatever we're lucky enough to find. The core gameplay loop can now begin. The actual shooting. This is the main issue. Because of the previous luck aspect of what item you may find, the core gameplay loop is always unfair. Those players who find a better weapon will have an advantage over players who found useless items. And the core gameplay loop of kill other people is now fundamentally flawed, because all players are not given an equal chance to kill the others. Some players will immediately find a large advantage through weapons or armour and immediately increase their chances of winning. Then comes a major fork in the road, based on whether you succeed or fail the gameplay loop. If you succeed and kill another player, you will continue playing. If you fail, you will be removed from the game. Succeeding at the loop is great. You're allowed to continue playing until you're the last one remaining and win. However, failing at the loop results in immediate removal from the game and you are returned to the lobby. This is the place you wait for another game to begin. Some games do have revival mechanics where you can be returned to life by a caring teammate reaching you, but the main gameplay loop is death equals removal. So knowing these 5 smaller loops, what's wrong with that? Well, let's examine all the steps and analyse. 1. The cosmetic side has absolutely no effect on gameplay, so doesn't have any impact either positive or negative. If you enjoy customising your character, then great. If not, you can simply ignore this bit. This is neither good nor bad. It's just a huge sink of development time that doesn't actually add any gameplay. 2. Character selection. The hero-shooter gameplay choice means players will be different from each other because they'll have different abilities. Some may have a higher jump, do more damage with certain guns, or have passive abilities which affect your healing. The downside of a hero shooter is playing as a character with different abilities from the person you're fighting means you're never actually comparing two players. You're comparing two players using two heroes. There's another layer of gameplay mechanic between them, so skill versus skill is always slightly skewed. Sports involving various athletes competing don't allow them to take the sport on in slightly different ways. They don't allow variation within the actual gameplay. Tennis doesn't let you choose between a racket or 2 sticks. One side of rugby can't choose to play twice as many players, but they have to tie their shoelaces together and jump everywhere. Variation at the character stage means balancing issues for the developers. It means overpowered or underused abilities for certain heroes. It means another level of variation in a gameplay loop that's not actually about variation. It's about killing the other players, and the fairer that can be, the better. 3. The entering into the battle arena, usually from the sky. This process of choosing where to start and then making your way through the sky serves absolutely no purpose other than providing a pseudo-dynamic feel of starting a battle. You can't fight in the air. You cannot fail at any gameplay loop at this moment of play because there aren't any happening. This is essentially a glorified loading screen before the game begins. The same thing could be achieved by having a large map displayed and giving each player 10 seconds to select where they'd like to start before teleporting them all there instantly and letting the game begin. Actually, the teleportation idea would speed up games and increase the fairness of them, as you'd all hit the ground at the same time and be unaware of who's around you from the start. The entering the arena phase is pretty, but ultimately pointless window dressing before the game actually begins. It's a tactical choice and then a needlessly long entrance cinematic played out each and every time a game begins. 4. Finding the weapons and armour you'll use. Once you've landed, you'll be madly searching for the guns that you can kill with and the armour you can survive with. This is a luck-based gameplay mechanic. You may find a great gun. You may find something terrible. But as there are a limited number of weapons and items available, finding something brilliant not only guarantees you have it, it guarantees somebody else won't find it. By taking an item from location A, you leave location A blank for the next unlucky person to discover it. This limitation on guns is done to increase exploration. You need to move quickly to find the good stuff, but also means after the short and intense flurry of searching for a gun within the first minute of the game, the scales are then heavily tipped in favour of those lucky few carrying around the more powerful items. This moment of the game is adrenaline-fueled and either results in the extreme dopamine rush of finding something useful or the crushing realisation you're about to be fighting an uphill battle of having no good items. This early game mechanic, being mainly luck, invalidates almost all tactical choices made previously. It does not matter which hero you are playing, what you look like, or where you landed, if you can be denied a chance at victory due to the lack of a decent gun. 5. So now we come to the only gameplay loop you're actually able to succeed or fail, killing another player or being killed. This is the main part of the game players talk about and recognise, the Battle Royale itself. Players killing players and surviving against all odds. You are able to kill another player by shooting them, punching them, grenading them, reducing their health to 0 in any way possible. However, unlike 1v1 battle games such as Tekken, Street Fighter, Time Splitters, or GoldenEye Split Screen, it is highly likely you will be killed by another player you have never even seen. Combat in these games favours stealth attacks. The element of surprise is the most overpowered tactic. While the image of two equal combatants facing each other, like the Wild West standoffs of Hollywood, is a sexy ideal, it's not the reality of these games. You'll be shot by a sniper from impossible distance, hit by a grenade thrown with blind hope, run into a shotgun coming round a corner. Your death, the end of your gameplay loop, is most likely to be brought about by no fault of your own. And that is one of my largest issues with these games. When I die in Dark Souls, Tekken, Devil May Cry, Call of Duty 1 vs 1, Uncharted, Destruction Derby, Crash Bash, GoldenEye, Time Splitters, Doom, RuneScape, or World of Warcraft, in the vast amount of cases, it's because I made a mistake. I messed up, and my poor choice caused my own downfall. I am happy to accept defeat when my choices caused it, and someone else took advantage of the opening I gave them. Battle Royale games focus on the gameplay loop of player versus player, and end the loop when you get killed. But the vast majority of deaths will not be because you made a mistake. They will happen because the map is so large, the number of players so many, and the luck of the initial search for the items so random that you have no way of preventing your death. Your gameplay loop will end abruptly because of factors totally beyond your control. Some of you may be thinking I'm just sounding salty because I lose so much, and I can understand why you'd think that, but it's honestly not about that. Player versus player should be about equal competition, tactics, and skill. So when I beat someone in a fair duel or a fair fight, the cut and thrust of a quick, twitch-based, fast draw, I feel accomplished. But when I shoot someone with a sniper who is totally unaware that I'm there, I feel nothing. No reward, no accomplishment. It was unfair for him and no work for me. It was an empty victory and an empty death. You may enjoy sniping, I know I do, but I also feel very little sense of achievement for winning a battle my opponent wasn't aware was even happening. So your gameplay loop ends when you are killed, which will likely be due to an unseen or unstoppable player. This means your actual gameplay session is ended. If you manage to survive, you'll eventually be crowned the victor. You will achieve that coveted victory royale. The only way to win is to cause everyone else to lose and leave the game. Your victory requires the failure of other players. Your enjoyment requires their disappointment. This means with a 100-player start, only 1% of players will enjoy that feeling of elation and victory. Any game with a 1% enjoyment ratio would generally be considered bad, but that feeling of I am the 1% when you do win is enhanced here, and I do understand why they have chosen to include it. That's the first of two reasons of why I dislike these games. A pointless cosmetic loop, two tactical loops invalidated by a purely luck-based loop, and then that likely ending of the core gameplay loop by unseen forces. My next main issue is the actual length of enjoyable gameplay compared to the downtime of preparation. Here's how this works. Playing a game is fun. If the core gameplay loop is fun, you want it to last for a long time. Before the game begins, you must prepare for it to begin. Let's take a simple example. Doom. I start the game, I click play, it begins. I am now playing the game. The preparation time is minimal, the game is instant, the gameplay loop, shoot stuff, will continue until I make a mistake and it is ended. The preparation time is very small. The enjoyable gameplay loop time, that's the time spent actually doing fun stuff, is very large. Compare that to Apex Legends. First of all, I select how I want to look, then a character to play as, then choose where to start, then run around finding a weapon, and now the gameplay loop begins, which will either be extended by a lucky kill or ended by another player's actions. The preparation time is larger, and the time spent within the enjoyable gameplay loop is shorter. Battle Royale games all suffer from long preparation times and short enjoyable game times. You'll spend a much larger prep time in these games compared to many others. You'll be waiting for games to start, entering the battlefield, hunting for a weapon, and then enjoying a small amount of actual gameplay content before being forced back to the beginning of this boring loop. These two reasons, luck-based unfair gameplay loops combined with a large amount of time spent in the preparation phase of a game instead of the core fun bit, combine to make Battle Royale shooters a hugely overrated game mode with very little actual fun compared with the time you spend playing them. If you've ever died in any Battle Royale game and asked yourself, am I actually having fun? The answer is probably no. But it's not all doom and gloom. How do we fix this? Because these games have the potential to be good. What lessons can we learn from the previous video game generation to improve this popular game mode? Let's take my favourite game mode from one of my favourite first-person shooters, Deathmatch from Unreal Tournament, and examine why it's different and why we could take some of these elements to really improve the Battle Royale genre. 1. Cosmetics are fine. They don't affect gameplay, so feel free to keep them. They are not a gameplay issue. 2. Hero choice. Interesting. You can keep it and argue about balance and tactics and overpowered abilities, or you can lose it and make the player versus player pure skill versus skill, with no actual gameplay mechanic differences. Personally, I'd say lose it. There's a reason Halo 1 multiplayer, Unreal Tournament, or Doom PvP was so enjoyable. No mechanical differences in avatars. I can understand the enjoyment that variation brings for team-based shooters that rely on cooperation and a combination of gameplay styles, like Overwatch or team versus team Call of Duty. Variation is enjoyable, but in a large free-for-all battle, I would prefer all players start on equal footing. Games like Doom, Unreal Tournament, and Halo didn't provide any gameplay mechanics for choosing a specific avatar. The choice was purely cosmetic. 3. Entering the battle arena. You can absolutely give players a choice about where they want to spawn, but you don't need the theatrical set dressing of airdropping them in. That simply adds to the length of preparation time where you're not actually involved in an enjoyable gameplay loop. Either spawn them straight in, or give them a choice within a short time frame. This cuts down needlessly long intro sequences and gets the game started faster. Unreal Tournament 3 did this, and it was absolutely fantastic. Lots of gameplay, very little prep time. 4. Searching for guns and armour. This is the most luck-based part of Battle Royales, and I believe one of the reasons they're so popular with the younger audience. It's nice to be given a powerful weapon to help you win. This luck system means any player could potentially win, a very attractive concept for younger or less experienced players, but somewhat of a negative for the older crowd, who value fairness and like to know that victory is based on tactics and skill, not luck. Have each player spawn with the same weapon, and have weapons around the map spawn in the same place every time. This leads to the tactical choice of, should I head to where I know the powerful weapon spawns and risk bumping into other people doing the same, or should I take a weaker gun, which may be easier to find, but also make the late game harder for me? Knowing these choices, and knowing each other player is also making them, leads to the much deeper tactical thinking than simply run around, loot everything, hope for the best. Also, from a purely diegetic point of view, that means what makes sense within the context of the world, why on earth would you jump into a free-for-all battle unarmed? Give everyone a gun. 5. The single largest change I'd put forward. Multiple lives, or playing to a timer. Hear me out before you spit your Mountain Dew all over the keyboard. The actual core gameplay loop of Fortnite, Apex Legends, PUBG and Tarkov, the actual gunfights, are amazing. They're so much fun. Players spraying bullets everywhere, snipers taking shots, grenades flying. The actual action moments of these games are bloody brilliant. They simply suck as they are now because one of the players involved, the loser, will be removed from that loop and forced to spend even more downtime in the preparation phase before another game begins. So I want to increase the amount of time a player can spend in the actual fun bit of the game, the combat. To increase this, death cannot be an immediate removal from the game. Either place a limit on the number of lives you start with, say 10, and you're removed when you run out, or set a number of kills a single player needs to achieve to be declared a winner, say 100, or place a time limit on the game, let's go with 15 minutes, and then at the end of the game have 2 victors crowned. Whoever killed the most other players is the executioner, and whoever died the least is the survivor. These suggested changes, more lives or a time limit, are both aimed at increasing the amount of time a player is able to enjoy the core gameplay loop, because it is actually fun, it just ends way too quickly for the amount of prep time you need to put in to get to it. To return to the title of this video, Battle Royale games suck because they require a disproportionately large amount of preparation time for a very short amount of enjoyable core gameplay loop. But they don't have to. Keep me in that core gameplay loop longer, or give me the ability to rejoin it quicker, and you'll have an absolutely fantastic multiplayer game on your hands, one which still has a clear winner, but one where the losers are still able to enjoy it and have fun, not simply be removed from the game. Just because I can't win this specific match anymore doesn't mean I want to be removed. I want to hunt down and kill the player who killed me. I want to try some stupid tactics. I want to camp and try and challenge myself to get a single headshot. You don't start a marathon and then shoot whoever is at the back of the pack every 10 seconds. It's not all about the winner. It's about the enjoyment of the game itself. Some players will never win, but want to be involved for longer than a single death. So, please let us be. Let's take the best elements of everything. Various weapons, huge 100-player games, varied maps, excellent shooting mechanics, a huge amount of cosmetics, and combine it to create a battle royale where every player, not just the winners, is able to actually enjoy the core gameplay loop for longer than a few moments. Thanks for watching. If you agree or disagree with anything I've said, leave a comment below. I do try to read them all and respond to everything I can. If you want to chat live, you can usually find me playing something on Twitch over at twitch.tv/Josh Strife Hayes. Liking and subscribing is always appreciated, and ring the bell if you want to be informed of any future videos I put out. Once again, thank you for watching, and have a great day.